Welcome, good people. I welcome you guys. I really welcome you. I can see that there were two people who were waiting in the life. Uh, Let us try to push. I won't be that much, but I'm just here to push because of I don't feel okay if ever you are going to write your examination without teaching you something regarding your final examination. Due to time, I won't be long, guys. I'm not going to be long, but the live is going to be very much progressive. It's going to help you a lot. It's really going to help you a lot, good people. It's going to help you a lot. So, as I explained that when it comes to, I'm sure you still remember my children, my Africa, and I believe that you know what is happening in my children, my Africa. But now, I'm not going to talk about my children, my Africa. I'm now going to talk about what? The 8 short stories. Remember, there are 8 short stories which they change each and every year to be understand. So in these 8 short stories, 2 of them they're going to show up. So you must be very much aware that all of them, I mean 2 of them, they're going to show up. Do we understand? Out of these 8 short stories, 2 of them they're going to show up in your examination. So without wasting that much time, let me tell you what you should expect in the short stories to be understand. Number one, good people, we have what? We have the exposition, which yesterday I was talking about the exposition. Yeah, thank you very much for being ready. Thank you very much for being here in time. There is exposition. Do we understand? I was waiting for you, sir. Yeah, that's totally perfectly fine, guys. I really appreciate it if you are concerned about your future, you are concerned about your metric, and I believe that everyone who's been watching my videos, you are going to pass your examination with flying colors. Not only passing, but pass with what? With flying colors. As I said that yesterday, guys, the paper that you're going to write tomorrow, I said to you, there is a novel in section A. There's going to be a novel in section A, which is out of 35. Then in section B, there's a drama out of 35. In section C, it's going to be the short stories, which is what? Which is 35 marks. Then there is also the poetry, which is section D, to be understand, which also is going to be what? It's going to be 35 marks. But in this Candice Tsakani, I can see you, Precious, I can see you guys. I can see all of you, and yeah, all of you, I can see you. You are welcome, good people. You are welcome. So, what you should know now is that you are going to answer only 2 sections. Out of these 4 sections, you must answer 2 sections. You understand? You everything to be understand, good people. So, when we come, the questions that they will be asked that you have studied in class. The questions that come in drama is the questions that are going to be coming. I mean, it's the questions that you read. So the reason why I usually, because I can see that a lot of them, they are saying that what are the poems that are going to show up. Do we understand? The English that they use when it comes to poetry, it becomes something else, because the poetry, remember, it has to rhyme. Do we understand? And what else that I'm going to tell you when it comes to poetry is that poetry, you must write 2 poetries. Just imagine, you must be able to answer 2 different poetries. That is why I usually don't recommend you to choose poetry. Do we understand? But you want to choose poetry, it's fine, because the IQ level, we don't have the same IQ level, and we really don't the same. Do we understand? So here it is. The drama that you will be given, it's something that you started. So when it comes to poetry, usually the questions that they come up, it's not the questions, it's not what you have studied. To be understand good. I hope that makes sense. Yes, guys, let us try to like, comment, people. Let us try to like, comment, and share. So those ones who want to answer the drama, not the drama, the novel. Hey, welcome, Marinki. You are welcome. Those ones who want to answer the novel, which is The Beloved. It's called the Cry the Beloved Country. Cry the Beloved Country. It will be the first question. It's gonna be what? Your first question, to be understand. So you extract from that beloved, and you'll be given an extract that you must read. You understand? So which is, it's gonna be like maybe 3 paragraphs that you are going to read in order for you to remember what you did inside the class. To be understand. So that's how it's been said. I hope we are understanding. And what is important when it comes to my beloved country, where the Cry beloved country, you know the setting of the story, you know the theme, you know the characters. Because in that question, you table, which has column A, and you must know the author. Who is the author? Who is James? To be understand. Who is Simango? You must know all of those people. You must know Absalom. You must know all of them. To be understand. You must know people, a person that is known as an activist. To be understand, good people. You must know a brilliant orator. To be understand. We must know who convicted the murder in the beloved Africa. I mean, in the beloved country, which is what Cry beloved country. Know all of the things that I'm telling you now, to be understand. And the other thing, the figure of speech. The figure of speech, you must know the figure of, you must know the figure of speech from where the extract that will be given. To be understand, good people. You must know. And you must also know the iron that is being used by certain. Yes, I'm going to do the short story. You must know the iron that is going to be used by the correct. It can be John Kumalo. We never know who are they going to show up. Do we understand? And you will find the question of what true or false regarding the Cry beloved country. Do we understand? There's one question that will be asked when it will say true or false. Do we understand? For instance, they can say, if you know the beloved country, you must know that is it true. Do we understand, good people? And you must be able to the tone. They can ask you about the tone of who? Of Simango. Used in what? In the extract. So which is a lot of things that they are asking you. They will be asking you about written in the extract. When I talk about the extract, it's something that is taken from where? From, or let me say, the scenario. That means you'll be given a scenario or a source based that this is and so on and so, just to remind you of what happened in the above countries. Do we understand, good people? I hope it makes sense. It makes sense, my good people. You must know the characters that are in what? The beloved country. And you must be able to know the theme. You must be able to know the theme of what? The beloved country. Do we understand? And you must also know the setting. You must also know the tone. You must also know the mood. Do we understand? Those are the things that you should know. And the challenges that are faced by what? The main characters. As I explained yesterday, that they are main characters that are in the story. Do we understand, good people? These questions, they will have a table to match the correct weight. Do we understand, good people? So always there is always what? There will always be a table. Do you understand? And true and false question is going to be there. I hope it makes. Are we all together? I believe that we are all together. So when you are going to answer the poetries, you must answer 2 poems. If you are going to answer the poet question, to be understand, you are going to answer 2 poems. But if ever you are going to answer those other things that I'm encouraging you to go and answer, you are only going to answer 1, to be honest. So in also even in my children, my Africa, you must know what? You must know the characters, the main characters, the ghost characters. You must know all of them, to be understand, good people. You must know all of them. Because the question that will come, there will be a question of it. You must know the theme of the story. You must know the theme of my children, my Africa. You must know the figure of speech that are used in my children, my Africa. And you must know the setting that is going to be used in my children, my Africa. This is the exam. If you are not going to listen to what I'm telling you now, tomorrow you will remember me. Do we understand, good people? So definitely I'm going to shoot videos teaching all of these things. Just that now is the matter of time, and I just want to push you so that tomorrow you can be able, like, going there without me giving anything. Do you understand? And you must also that in my children, my Africa, there is justice or injustice. Remember, the story is taken in a time of death. You must be able to tell us in my children, my Africa or not. Do we understand? So on the short stories that are chosen by the CAP, but only 2 short stories that are going to show up. Only 2 of the short stories that you learned at school, only 2 of them which are going to show up in your final examination. And it's going to be given an extract. There will be an extract that it will also be given, like all of those other questions. For instance, last year they took out what? Rejection. Rejection was there, and what? The Evelian was also there last year, to be understand. You can't hear. That means my voice is not deep. Do we understand, good people? So even in the short stories, you are going to find a question that has what? A table. So you must know the characters of the 8 short stories. Do we understand, good people? I hope it makes sense. Let us start with our short stories now. I believe that I tried to cover those other things. So now on the short stories, what you should know, in fact, here I'm not only covering the short stories, but I'm covering the entire paper too, which is what? The Cry, the Beloved Country, My Children, My Africa, the poems and the short stories. Do we understand? Remember, the poems goes according to the stanzas, but I'm not going to go deep in the poems. I'm going to be deep in My Children, My Africa, and the short stories, which are 8 short stories. So this is how it is. We have what? We have exposition. As I was telling you yesterday on My Children, My Africa, that we have exposition of the story or the introduction. Do we? So whereby we have what? We have conflict. We have the step. Move forward. We have what? The rising action. I said that the rising action, which is what? It's an event before what? The climax. Then we have climax. Climax, I said it's a turning point. Do we understand? Or point of what greatest suspicion of or an action. Do we understand? Then we have what falling action and the resolution. So now let us go and start with the forbidden love. Let us go and start with the forbidden love, good people. We're gonna start with the forbidden love. That's what we will be dealing with first. That's what we will be dealing with first. So if you make sure that you sleep knowing them. So first of all, when we talk about the setting is there in your exam, they will ask you that give the setting of the story. So if you are not going to listen to me now, you're gonna face a problem. The setting is when and where does the story take place. You must put it in mind. When they say the story, it's when and where, time and place the story take place. You must know it by heart before you sleep, because tomorrow that question is going to be there. The question tomorrow is going to be there. The setting of the story, it's when and where, time, place. Take place. When does the story take place? That's the setting of the story. You must know it. Then what are the characters? The characters are the characters in the story. People who are in the story, those are called what? Characters. Do you understand? And then you must be able to identify the character, the way a character behaves. How can you define this character? Do we understand? You notice the values that character had. Do we understand, good people? The question of a theme is going to be there. What is the theme of the story? What is the theme of forbidden love? What is the story of the boy and the weed? Do we understand? The theme of the story is the message. The message that is being given by the story or the author. Do we understand? When we talk about the theme of the story, we are talking about what? Message. Do we understand? We are talking about message, which is what the what does trying to tell us or teach us. That's the story. Do we understand? That's the theme of the story. Then we move. We also have to know the tone. The tone is going to be there. The tone is going to be there. You must know the tone. Quality in the voice that expresses the speaker's feelings or thought. So you must be able to know the tone when a character, when you are reading, you must know that, okay, so and so here was angry or was thinking this. You must know the tone. As a matriculant, when you are going to write your examination, you must know the tone of a character. And you must also know the mood. Do we understand? You must also know the mood. The mood, it simply explains where you feel at a particular time. Or are you feeling good or bad? Do we understand? What is a mood? That is, do you feel sad? Do you feel happy? Do we understand of the story? Then there is what? Imagery. Imagery is going to be there. What do you imagine? What does it come in your mind when you are story? Imaginary is going to be there. Ask you that question of imaginary. The question of imaginary is going to be there. They're going to ask you. I'm really sorry, guys, about my network, and it's giving us a problem. The story, the imaginary is going to be there. The question of imaginary. Do we understand? So when we talk about the imaginary, what picture could you visualize as you read the story? What picture does it come in your mind? When you are reading a story, you must know the picture, in your mind that, okay, imagine that, okay, maybe they were in a house, door this side. Every reader have what? An imaginary when you are reading a story. So in an imaginary, similar is going to be there. Personification is going to be there. Metaphor there. Don't take this for granted. Similar, metaphor, irony, they are going to be there. Make sure that you know those things before you sleep or before you go to write your examination. Do we understand, good people? And you must also have the point of view. What does the narrator trying to tell us? Do we understand? Even conflict, as I said yesterday, that there will be conflict. So now, analyze the short stories. This is what short story. Do we understand, good people? I have now stories. I have to analyze the short stories that we have. Analyze what the short stories that we have, good people. And I said on the short stories that we'll be dealing with, two of them, they're going to show up. We'll start with forbidden love. We're going to start with what? Forbidden love. So when we talk about the forbidden love, we are simply talking about, the story is about two people who love each other deeply and they have to hide their feelings. Do we understand? Forbidden love, we are talking about people who love each other deeply and they have to hide their feelings. Reason for two people who love each other and they have to hide what from each other. What are the reasons? It's because of Michael is black, is a colored. Michael is black, Dora is what? Is a colored. Do we understand? And the two lovers are eventually exposed when Dora's little brother, which is who? Bobby, learns that his sister is in a relationship with a native. Remember, a native is a name that was used by that time of an apartheid, which was referred to what? Black people. Black people were called what? Natives. Do we understand? And this thing, for them to be revealed, it leads to what? To conflict between or the two families lovers, which is the family and Michael. They now start to fight. Two different people are in love. Do we understand? Which later on it results in attack of who? Michael. That means Michael was attacked. And the irony of this, I'm telling you the irony of the story. The irony of the story, it's what it lies. The fact that Dave, who's Dave? Dave is Dora's. Dave is Dora's brother. Do we understand? Has a relationship with Salome, Michael's sister, from which a child was conceived. So do we understand, good people? So now I'm saying now Dora and Michael, they are in a relationship. And both of their families does not want them to be in a relationship because of what? It's an interracial. Because of Michael is black, Dora. Do we understand, good people? And now, what is happening? The brother of Dora, it keeps on beating Michael. Brother of Dora is dating who? Is dating of who? Of Michael, which is what? Which is a Salum. Do we understand, good people? So the title, love. What is the meaning of forbidden love? Forbidden love, it simply refers to a romantic relationship between two individuals which is not approved. I guess we're gonna have a problem here. The rain is starting, and where I am is going to make a lot of noise. If it will disturb us, I will have to end the live. I believe that you cannot hear me anymore. Then the theme of the story. In the theme of the story, we have what? We have fear. That's number one. And hypocrisy. Do we understand? I did explain my children, my Africa, Joyce. Go to channel, then you go and watch it. I did explain it yesterday. Okay, so if you can hear me, it's fine. So now I'm saying that the theme of the story, there is fear. When we talk about fear, remember guys, Dora and they had to hide their relationship. Why should they hide their relationship? Because of they are afraid that if they can be exposed, they're gonna be in trouble. Do we understand? Then when we talk about the hypocrisy, we are simply talking about what? Dave, who is dating what? Salu. And on the other side, does not want Michael to date his sister. I hope that makes sense. And the other theme of the story is that there is a racism in the story. Do we understand? We have three themes in this story. It's gonna be fear, hypocrisy, and what? And racism. Those are the three themes we have. Do we understand, good people? That we have in the story. The forbidden love. The theme of the story and hypocrisy. That's the theme. There is nothing that is more than that. That's the theme of the story. I hope that makes sense. This rain is jealous. It wants to disturb us. Do we understand, good people? I guess now we are moving. So we must know how this taught, which now we must know the setting of the story, and we must know the structure and the plot development. The setting of the story is going to be there tomorrow. The setting of the story is going to be there tomorrow. The setting of the story is at Western Cape Township. I mean, not Western Cape, it's at Western Township of Johannesburg. I don't think you are going to hear me. The rain is hitting. I'm ending the live. I will come if the rain will stop. You can hear me. Okay. Okay, then we can continue. The setting of Forbidden Love is Western Township of Johannesburg, which is namely Sophia Town. During the highest of apartheid, that's the setting of the story. I guess now we are moving forward. So I also want to tell you the structure development, which I will be talking about what the exposition and the rising action and the resolution. Then we move forward. The exposition is that the narrator introduces what us to the story through what two lovers from different racial background. Do we understand, good people? We have to hide in tail grass due to what prohibition on mixed relationship. That's the exposition of the story. That's the introduction of the story. The narrator introduces us to the story through what two lovers from different racial backgrounds. Do we understand? We have to hide in tall due to what? Due to prohibition of mixed relationship. Remember, by that people were not allowed to be in a relationship. Do we understand? Different race, they were not allowed to be back then. Do we understand? Then we also have what? The rising action. When we talk about the rising action, it's whereby now we are talking about Dave and few of his colored friends go out looking for who? Michael. Michael is dating Dora, don't forget. So Dave go out looking for who? For Michael, who's dating who? Dora. Who's Dora? Dora is the sister of who? Dave. Do we understand? They met him at the rhythmic cinema and beat him. That means Michael got beaten by Dave and his colored friends. Do we understand? Then Dora tries to stop them, but they are determined to beat him. Do we understand, good people? And the other African boys run away, and Michael and Dora are left by themselves with the anger of colored boys. I hope that makes sense, because I don't know the, because I have to move to the next stories. Remember, after this one, we are left with 7 short stories that we still have to deal with. Do we understand? Let us go to the climax of the story. You must also know what the climax of the story. After learning about the story of Michael's beating by Dave and his friend, do we understand, good people? Salum has an idea of how to end what the whole issue. I hope you still remember who's Salum. Salum is the sister of who? Of Michael. And Salum is dating who? Dave. The brother of who? Of Dora. Don't be lost. So Salum has an idea on how to end. When Michael has healed, Salum exposes the truth. Actually, the father of her child. Salum even present evidence in the form of love letters that Dave has written to her. Both families were shocked. Do we understand, good people? Then the resolution in this story, Michael and Dora are no longer living under fear. And there is a feeling that fighting between the two families has what? Subjected, or the fighting has ended. Do we understand, good people? So now I also have to give you the characters of these people. I also have to give you the characters of who? Of the people. Then let us talk about who? Dora. So I want to give you the character of who? Of Dora, guys. Randolph, which I mean O-I-P Randolph. Dora Randolph, you must know that she was loving. You understand? Because they can ask you what kind of a person is. Do we understand, good people? She is loving. Do we understand? She is caring. Why do we say that? Because of she loves Michael deeply. And she takes care of Michael when he is beaten by young colored boys. And Dora, she is overprotective. Do we understand? And Dora, she is progressive. I'm done with Dora. We are moving now. You must go and pass this thing. Then let us talk now. Michael Chabageng. Michael Chab. C-H-A-B-G. Michael, which is Mike. Michael is sensitive. And Michael, he is loving. He is considerate, which is he's a person who's concerned. Michael is respectful. Michael is peaceful. I'm done with Michael now. I'm giving you the characters of these characters. Now we're going to talk about who? Mr. Vane. That's an African name. Mr. Vane Vurian. Vane Vurian. Mr. Vane Vurian is racist. Why do we say he's racist? He advises colored people to stay away from black people. Do we understand? And he is what? When we talk about a person who's conservative, we are simply talking about a person afraid that socio-political change. That means things can change. He's not going to be okay anymore. And is deceptive. When we say a person is deceptive, it's because of Mr. Van Vurian. He did what? He tries to destroy and gives love letters. Then we also have what? We also have Mr. Ranford. Mr. Ranford, he's what? He's racist. He's racist. He's racist because he is against interracial relationship. He's against that black person can date a colored person. So he's racist. And he is what? Conservative. When we say a person is conservative, we are simply saying that a person who has a fear that if the political system that we're having in a country, if it can change, that means because I cannot live with new law. I prefer this one. Then we have Lucia Randolph. Lucia, she's what? She's insecure. Why? She had what? Dark complexion, which makes her feel what? Do we understand? She had what? A dark complexion, which made her to feel. And she's also regressive. She's also She does not want to associate herself with black people. Do we understand, good people? And hear me clearly. I just pray that you are hearing me. Can you hear me, guys? Okay. If you can still hear me, let us move forward then. Guys, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, good people. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Then we have who? We have Menier Kelsen. The word Menier, it's an Afrikaner word or an which refers to what mistake. Able to know the definition of what of Menier. Menier sim mistake. Do we understand, good people? Menier Kelsa was selfish. He was selfish. Why do we say he was selfish? In the story, it's revealed that he wanted Dora for himself. Do we understand? And he is determined to do what? To inform the both families that Michael and Dora, they are in a relationship. And he is also manipulative because Menier Kelsa, he tells others that Dora is in an interracial relationship. And he is also what? Self-righteous. He keeps his drinking problem a secret, but wants to expose who? Dora's scandal. Do we understand, good people? And he is also, that means he brings order in school fight. That means he brings a discipline. Menier Kelsen. Moving to Dave Ranfeld, which is with Ranfeld, the brother of Dora, who beated Michael. He is two-faced, or he's a hypocrite. The reason why we say he's a hypocrite is because of he does not approve Dora and Michael relationship, yet he also has love child. With who? With Salum. Do we understand, good people? And he is also secretive because he keeps his relationship with Salum a secret. And Howard. He's also a coward because he lived with fear that he will be exposed by Salum that he is the father of her child. And he's also violent because he planned Michael's attack. And he is protective because he protects his sister from what the disgrace of being involved with a black man. And he's also loving romantic. Because he did what? He is in a relationship with Salum and writes her what? Flaming what? Love letter. So now, let us talk about who? Salum now. Salum Chabange. She is trustworthy because she keeps her end of the deal by keeping a relationship with Dave a secret for a long time. And she's also brave because after her brother's beating, she exposes her relationship with Dave to his family despite their race issues. That's being very brave. Do we understand, good people? And she is also what? She is also caring because she helps Dora take care of who? Of Michael. I hope that makes sense. The question of the style, you must also know what is a style. Do you understand? So the style of the story is that the style is used what throughout the story. How so? This could be because of the narrator wants to demonstrate apartheid norms as lived by different racial groups in the township. That means, in other words, the story exposes the practice of the apartheid system and its cruel tendencies. That's the style of the story. It's trying to do what? Expose the practice of what? Of the apartheid system and its cruel tendencies. That's the style of the story. That means the narrator was trying to expose what? The practice of the apartheid system and its cruel tendencies. That's the style. Do we understand, good people? So the figurative language or the diction, when we talk about the diction, is the words that the narrator chose to use. That's the diction. When we say diction, we are simply talking about words that a narrator decided to use, which is a what? It's a figurative language. To make it easy, is the figure of speech. You must know what the figure of speech that are included in the story. Number one, the figure of speech. It's a personification that is used in the story. It's a personification. Personification. It's a what? It's a figure of speech that is used in the forbidden love. Do we understand, good people? Number two. Before we go to number two, what is an example of a personification? The example of personification is that this business of becoming an African is nearest to her. Sim would smoothest catch her in its cruelty. In cruel fingers. Do we understand? Which, if ever you can open your short story, the anthology of short stories in page 11, you are going to find where they used what? Personification. I hope it makes sense. Then we also have what? We also have similar. Similar is in the story. Because there is in page 12 of your story, there is where they said a ghost-like shadow. That means a ghost is compared to a shadow, or a shadow is compared to a ghost. That's a similar. Do we understand, people? Then we also have what? Metaphor. We also have metaphor. Which, where they used metaphor, they used metaphor in page 10, page 11, and page 13. In page 10, they said, his dark form swam towards her. That's a metaphor. In page 11, they said, let's feed the faith. That's a metaphor. In page 13, to show that they used the metaphor, it's whereby they said he had a bomb shell. He had a bomb shell. I hope we are understanding what I am talking about, good people. And they also what irony. Irony is going to be there. You must know what is irony. So when they say, so this is the bloodly dead bastard, that's an irony. You are using an irony. Is to be what? Sarcastic. That's an irony that is used in the story, which you're going to find it in page 50. Then, the other thing that we should know before we end the story, we must know the tone and the mood. That's the last thing that we should know on the forbidden love. We must know the tone and the mood, and then we move to the second story. The tone and the mood is that the tone is what? It's bitter. That's the tone of the story. There is bitterness. The story is what? It's bitter. Number two, the tone of the story is what? Cruel. The story is cruel. Do we understand? And also what? Consideration. That's the tone of the story. Then we also have what? The mood of the story. On the mood of the story, we have tense, hopeless, and fearful. People are hopeless. There is tense. There is what? Fearful. That means people were fearing. For you to know this thing, you are good to go and write forbidden love. For instance, if I can ask a question now, who is Dora's boyfriend? Can someone write on the comment, who is Dora's boyfriend? Yes, it's Mike, it's Michael. Do we understand? Thank you very much, Palisa. It's Mike. Do we understand? And then if I can ask a question again, who is Michael's sister? Ndibuo, thank you very much. Who is Michael's sister? Yes, Salum. It's Salum. Do we understand, good people? Then, who was Dora's brother? Who was Dora's brother? It was Dave. Dora's brother is Dave, which is who? David. So I believe that we are good to go. Was Michael's Okay, that one I asked you. Who was Lucia? Who is Lucia? Who is Lucia, guys? Sister of Dora, right? Who was Mr. Van Vurian? Mr. Van Vurian. These short stories, guys, are very easy. It's all about you adapting to what I'm teaching you now. But if you want to choose the poems, that's also fine. Because at the end, what we want to pass. That's what matters more than anything else. I hope we understand. We are now moving to the second story, the rejection. Are we ready for rejection? Okay, let us move now to the rejection. So, the summary of rejection is that the narrator is an Islamic wife. The narrator is an Islamic wife. Do we understand? The narrator is an Islamic wife who takes care of her household and support her children's education. Do we understand? She is a caring person who welcomes friends of her daughters, which is who? Daba. When they come to study, and her husband, Mudau, also shows interest in the beautiful young girl. Binot, do we understand? By sometimes taking her home after study. Do we understand, good people? I hope we are understanding what is happening in the rejection. Binotau's mother put her under pressure to accept the old man's hand in marriage. Do we understand? And Binotos is also excited about the marriage, but she submits to her mother, Pearl, and agrees. Do we understand, good people? So in this story, there are simply how many? There are simply three men break the news to the who? To the narrator that her husband has taken a second wife. Do you understand? She is shocked about this news and she remains what calm, while Daba is crucial and feels betrayed and humiliated by her father and friend. Do we understand, good people? After 40 days of mourning Mudau's death, Tamse, which is who? Mudau's brother. You must know all of these people. You must come back and watch the video again so that you can understand what is happening in the story. Announce his intention to marry the narrator. She, for the first time, does not keep quiet but stand her grounds and reject him in front of other men. Do we understand, good people? So the title of the story, when they say rejection, it simply means that the dismissal of refusal of a proposal or an idea. The story is about the narrator who at the end of the story reject the idea of marrying her last husband's brother. Do we understand, good people? The rejection gives the narrator the power and the voice in a patriarchal society. Do we understand? So that's the title of the story. I'm simply explaining why do they call the story a rejection. Do we understand, good people? So now we have the theme of the story. In this story, the theme of the story, we have what? Cultural and religious practice. That's number one. That's the theme of the story. Number two, we have what? Broken relationships. That's number two. Number three, we have betrayal. That's the theme of the story. Number four, we have what? Gender inequalities. That's the theme of the story. Number five, we have what? Abuse. That's the theme of the story. Number six, we have what? We have poverty. That means we have 6 themes of the story. Do we understand, good people? I hope that makes sense. So the reason why we say in the theme of the story we have what? Cultural religious practice is because of in the short story, the narrator, an Islamic wife, submit to her cultural values. Do we understand? At the beginning, she enjoys being what? The only wife. But a crisis erupts when a second wife joins what? The married without any consultation. Do we understand? She hates the fact that she must pretend to be happy and support the young second wife. Do we understand, good people? Her feelings are not considered by her in-laws, especially Tamse. Remember, Tamse is the brother of who? Of this man that married who? This Islamic wife. His intentions to marry her after the 40 days of mourning her last husband. I hope that makes sense. Then the reason why we say there is a broken relationship. Remember, I'm talking about the theme of the story here. The reason why we say there is a broken relationship is because of, in the story, the narrator's relationship with the husband, which is Mudau, is shaken when takes a second wife without consulting her. Do we understand? And the family expect her to accept the new living agreement of being left alone at times. And Daba and Binoto's relationship ends when Binoto marries Daba's father and becomes her stepmother. Do we understand? And the narrator's relationship with her in-laws is shaken when she openly refuses Tamses' intentions to marry her after Mudau's passing. Do we understand, good people? I hope it makes sense. Then we have what? We have betrayal in the theme. So when we talk about the betrayal of the theme, we are simply talking about what the narrator feels betrayed by her life partner, Mudau, who takes a second wife without consulting her, and Daba feels betrayed by her close friend, Binoto, who marries what Daba's father as his second wife. Do we understand, good people? Both the narrator and Daba feel betrayed by who? Benotos, whom they welcomed to their home to do the homework. So do you see how painful it is? Do we understand? Then the other theme that we have, I said, is what? It's gender inequalities. There's gender inequalities. Mudau and Tamsa dominate their marriages. Do we understand? They dominate their marriages. Dominate their marriages, and they make decisions without what? Consulting their partners. Do we understand? And women in their lives are treated as an object. Women in their life are treated as what? As an object, and their opinions do not count. Do we understand, good people? And Mudau shows no respect to girls as he exploits the young Bernot by making her second wife. Do we understand, good people? I hope that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. You just don't have to mind people who come with witchcraft. We just have to focus and go there and pass, good people. Do we understand? And then the other theme that we have, I said it's what is going to be abuse. I said there's an abuse in the story. Do we understand, good people? Binoto's mother abuses her daughter when she begs her to marry Mudau. Do we understand, good people? And she sees Binoto's marriage as a life changer and an upgrade in social status. I hope you are getting what I'm saying. Then we also have what? Poverty in the story. Do we understand? We have poverty in the story whereby Binoto is exposed to poverty and ends up getting what? Married to an old man because he can provide her and her mother. I hope that makes sense. Remember, I said I'm giving you the theme of the story of what? The rejection. So that you can understand what is happening in the rejection. Do we understand, good people? Then we also have to know how does the story is being told, which is we must know the setting of the story. The story takes place in Dakar or Dakar. Do we understand? Dakar. Do we understand? Where? In Senegal. The story takes place where? In Dakar, in Senegal, in the late 1990s. Most events take place in the narrator's home where she stays with her family. That's the setting of the story. That's the setting of the story. Do we understand? So now we must move to what? To structure and the plot development. We must move to the structure and the plot development. I hope that makes sense. We have what? We have the exposition. As I said it before, that the exposition is when the narrator introduces the story with my own crisis came. When the narrator said that on the story, when he said my own crisis came. Remember that the narrator is the third person in the story. He's telling the story. She's telling the story and she's also in the story. So she's referred to what? A third person in the story. Do we understand, good people? Which indicate that she has been living happily at home. Binoto and Daba's classmate, which is what? Narrator's daughter, frequently visit the narrator's house. Do we understand? And she is described as young, beautiful, girl, and she get attentions of the narrator's what husband. Do we understand, good people? I hope it makes sense, my good people. I hope it really makes sense. So let us move forward now. We have what the rising action. When we talk about the rising action, it's whereby now Benotto's relationship with an old man transforms her into a new person who wears what expensive dresses. Who wear what expensive dresses? Do we understand, good people? Who wear expensive dresses, and the narrator's daughter shares all her friends' secret with her mother, including what Benotto's crisis of being what quoted by the sugar daddy. Do we understand? And Benotto has no choice but to marry the old man because of her mother is desperate for a better life that will be provided by the sugar daddy. Do we understand, good people? Then we also have what the climax of the story. We also have what the climax of the story, which is when we talk about the climax of the story, we are simply talking about what the three men, Tamsa and Mudau. Do we understand? And a local spiritual leader who is what? Imam. There is a person that was called Imam. Do we understand? Who's announced that the narrator's husband has married a new wife. Who is who? Benotto. And the narrator, guys, and her daughters' worlds are shaken by the news, as they have never thought of Benotto's sugar daddy to be Mudau, husband and father of these people. Do we understand? I hope that makes sense. And they both feel what? They both feel humiliated and powerless as they experience what? Mudau's rejection. Do we understand, people? Then we have a resolution. Remember, I said every story has what? Has a resolution. Do we understand? So when we go to the resolution, we are simply talking about what? The narrator finally gets a chance to what? To unleash her bottled anger on the 40th day of what? Mourning her husband, her last husband. Do we understand? Which is Mudau. Remember, Mudau passed away. Don't forget it. Do we understand, good people? Do not forget that Mudau passed. And then Tamsa, announcement of his attention to marry what the narrators make her speak out. She deals with what initial crisis, which is highlighted in the beginning of the story. Do we understand, good people? She stops the abuse and bring back her power and independence as a woman. She decides that no man will ever decide how she must live her life. I hope it makes sense. So now I have to tell you the characterization of these characters. Number one, we have the narrator, which the narrator is the wife of Mdau, the first wife of Mdau. Do we understand? The narrator, she is what? Supportive, because she supports her daughter's education. Number two, she is brave and emotionally strong, because she put on brave face though she is disappointed by her husband who marries a young wife. Do we understand? Then the other thing is that she is also calm. Do we understand, good people? She is also calm because she does not allow her husband's betrayal to get the better of her. And she is also fearless. She is also what? Fearless. Do we understand? So we are done talking about the narrator. Let us talk about Mudau now. Mudau is a dictator because he did not consult his wife before marrying what? A young girl who is what? Daughter's classmate. So I hope you understand that in this story, there is an old man that is marrying what? A school child who is a friend of his daughter. Do we understand, good people? Then there is what? Mudau is also secretive because he marries a young wife without informing his wife, the narrator. Do we understand? Then let us now talk about the characterization of who? Of Binoto. Binoto, she is insecure and she is shy. Why do we say that? Because her poor background make her feel inferior. And she is what? Untrustworthy because she betrays her friend Daba when she does not disclose the name of her sugar daddy. And she is also naive. When we say a person is naive, we are talking about a person who's innocent or a person that has what? The lack of experience. She gives in to her mother's manipulation and marries what? The sugar daddy. Then let us hear what kind of a person Benoto's mother was. She was very manipulative because she convinced her daughter to marry an old man to provide for her lifestyle. So that's been what? Manipulative. Do we understand, good people? Then we have Tamsa is supporting. He supports his brother Mudau when he remarries. Number two, he is what? He is an opportunistic. He tells the narrator that is his good look charm. Because of Mudau passed away, he's now wanting to marry the narrator who dated, who was in a relationship with Mudau before Mudau passed away. Do we understand? And he is also brave because he tells the narrator about his intentions to marry him. I mean, marry her. I hope that makes sense. I hope that makes sense, good people. Then we have what? Imam, which is I-M-A-M, Imam. When we talk about Imam, he is brave because he is the one who is brave enough to break the news about Mudau's wedding to the narrator. He's very brave. Do we understand? Then we have Daba. Let us hear what kind of a person Daba is. Daba is caring. Why do we say Daba is caring? Daba is caring because she allows friends to come and study at her home. Do you understand, good people? And she is supportive. The reason why we say she is supportive is because of she supports Benoto when she tells her about her relationship with a sugar daddy. She seeks advice from her mother on behalf of Benoto. And she is also protective. Do we understand, good people? So the narrator's point of view here is that the narrator is an Islamic wife. The narrator is an Islamic wife who enjoys her married life at the beginning of the story. Do we understand? And she is a round character as she experiences both inner and outer conflict. Do we understand? Remember, when we say she faced inner conflict, it's whereby now she was with herself. That means I'm not good enough. She started to lose the self-confidence. Why did Mudau go and marry a girl that is 17 years old while I'm... And remember, that girl, Benotto, was beautiful. She was very much more attractive than who? Than the Islamic woman or the narrator. Do we understand, good people? Then we have to know the style of the of the story. The style is that there is some dialogue within the story to the poetry, the character's feelings, or portray the character's feelings. Do we understand? Or emotions. The dialogue brings what? The story to life. And the reader gets to know the characters better through what they say. Do we understand, good people? And remember, I said there is what? Diction or the figurative language. I said when we talk about the figurative language, we are simply talking about what? We are simply talking about figure of speech that are used in the story. Number one, we have similar. Number two, we have metaphor. Number three, we have a hyperbole. Then we now move to the tone and the mood of the story. We now move to the tone and the mood of the story. I believe we are all together, guys. I hope you are still understanding what is happening. Are we to... Okay, let's continue then. The tone of the story. We have what? We have downhearted or depressed. Remember, the narrator uses this tone when the story begins. Words in the story, she said, my own crisis came. That my own crisis came. That's the tone that we have. Depressed. And we also have what? Enraged. When we simply talk about enraged, it's whereby the friend of Daba married her father. Just imagine. And then in the story, we also have what? Change, because Banot changes from being a slave, a shy girl, to what? Lively after what? Who bought her expensive clothing. I hope that makes sense. And we also have the mood of the story. In the mood of the story, we have said angry, emotional, happy, and obstacles. When we talk about obstacles, we're talking about problems. I hope it makes sense. I hope we understand now the, what is this? The rejection. So who is the narrator's daughter, if I may ask that question? Who is the narrator's daughter? is Daba, right? Kensan Chauke, thank you very much. Then who is Mdau's brother? Who's Mdau's brother? Tamse. Mdau's brother is Tamse. The narrator's daughter is Daba. Then who is the sugar daddy? Who is the sugar daddy? Mdau is the sugar daddy. Who is Mdau's second wife? Who is Mdau's second wife? Binoto. No, Islamic wife is the first wife, which is the narrator. Binoto is the second wife of Mdau. I believe we are still together. Should we now move forward? Let us now at the Evelyn short story. Evelyn. At the Evelyn is that we must know that the main character is a young woman who lives in Dublin. Dublin. Do we understand, good people? When we move to the Evelyn, we are simply talking about what? A young woman who lives in what? Dublin with her father. That's the main character. Do we understand? Number two, her mother is dead. Do we understand, good people? She is dreaming of a better life beyond the shoes of Ireland, such that plans to elope with Frank. a Salio who is what? Her lover. Do we understand, good people? And start a new life in what? In Argentina. Evelyn is responsible for the day-to-day running of a household. Her father is always drunk and does not contribute any money towards towards their household needs. Evelyn's brother, who? Harry, is always away on business. Her other brother, Ernest, has died. Do we understand, good people? Evelyn keeps her employment in a shop as a secret. Her father abuses her verbally and financially. Evelyn is tired of this life. And so she and Frank book a trip on a ship to Buenos Aires in Argentina. As she is about to board the ship, Evelyn has second thoughts. Without a wait, she turns around and goes home, leaving Frank to board the ship alone. I hope that makes sense. I hope that makes good people. So the Evelyn, as in the title, is the name of the character, right? The story is about her and her life, her relationship, and with her father and siblings, and about the relationship with Frank. So the story, it simply focuses on her suffering in the hands of her father and the decision she has to make about her life. I hope that makes sense. So the theme that we have in the story, number one, we have different forms of death. That's the theme of the. Which is literally Evelyn's mother and one brother are dead. Their absence in her life causes pain and loneliness. Then when we go to the figurative, people live in Dublin and are no longer part of Evelyn's life are described as thought. They are no more. She fears that if she leaves Dublin, she will also be considered dead. Do we understand, good people? And there's something that we should know about Evelyn. Evelyn's life is very miserable and empty. She does not have a social life and lives in secret. She considered herself dead. Evelyn, she fears that if she elopes and gets married, her marriage will be like death and she'll lose her identity. The other theme that we have in the story, we have religion and keeping promises. We have religion and keeping what promise. Do we understand? So it's one of the reasons for Evelyn's failure to escape in her Catholic religion. Her Catholic enforce in her that she should be able to make sacrifices and promises and to live in guilty. She is then sacrifices her own freedom, happiness in order to do what? To keep her promise which binds her with her late mother. I hope it makes sense. And Evelyn, she was ready to sacrifice her life, which is it's a reality, but she does not want to sacrifice her memories. She feels that If she leaves, she will have to start a new life and lose her identity. Do we understand, good people? Other theme that we have in the story, we have women and society. Evelyn is typically wherein a Dublin woman who is inferior to men. Women had to be what? Grateful that they were powerful men in their lives. Like Evelyn needs a male in her life who can support her and finds Frank. Unfortunately, her doubt prevents her from breaking the chains, and she is not able to challenge the system. Do we understand? Then also in the theme of the story, we also have what? The liberation. In the liberation of the story is that Evelyn tries to escape from the life she has led, being surprised and abused by her father. She believes that if she goes away, the society in Argentina will be different and people will not judge her for her past actions. Then the idea of escaping attracts her, but when the time comes to act, she will not do it. Do we understand? Good. And through this theme, the author conveys the message that escape does not always yield positive results and may worsen the situation. I hope we are now understanding. So now we have to know how is the story. We must know the setting of the story. The story takes place in Dublin, Ireland, during the early 30s. Do we understand? Number two, we have what? We have the structure plot development. Remember I said we have exposition, we have rising action, we have climax, we have falling action, and the so in the exposition, which is the introduction, the main character Evelyn is introduced as a troubled teenager who is 19 years old. She critically looks at surroundings, her life and her past experience. She feels what? She feels that under her father's abusive suffer the way her last suffered. That's an introduction. That's how they introduce the story. Do we understand, good people? So on the rising action, we are simply having what? Evelyn meets Frank, who promises her a better life in Argentina than one she is experiencing, than the one that she is experiencing where? In Dublin. You understand? She writes two letters, one to her father and one to another, who is who? Her brother. Do we understand? To let them know that she is going to look for a better life. The plan is to board a ship with Frank and escape another country, where the two will get married and live happily ever after. That's the rising action. Remember, she's going to escape. So let us hear what is the climax. When the time comes for Evelyn to leave Dublin, the idea of her mother's late death comes back to haunt her. When the ship is about to depart, Frank holds Evelyn's hand and asks her to come on board. Her thoughts are too busy, and she cannot decide whether to board the ship or return back home. Then what was the resolution? is that Evelyn feels as if ship would drown her. Number 2, and decide to stay. She does not move even when Frank keeps calling her. So Evelyn was dutiful. That's number 1. Number 2, Evelyn was what? Courageous. Evelyn was what? Obedient. Evelyn was she is loving. Evelyn, she is secretive. Evelyn, she's ambitious. Evelyn, she's religious. Those are the things that you should know about Evelyn. Then let us go to Evelyn's father. Evelyn's father, he is irresponsible. He is abusive. He is what? A sexualist. Do you understand? Then let us hear about Frank or Frank. He is kind. He is loving. He well traveled. He is considerate because he was concerned about what? Evelyn's abuse that she's facing at home. Then let us hear about the mother of Evelyn. Evelyn's mother, she is strong-willed and she is honest. Do we understand? Then let us hear about who? Miss Gavel. Miss Gavel, she is harsh or bitter because she mistreats who? Evelyn in front of people or customers. Then we have Harry. Harry is hardworking. So the style of the story is that a formal register is mostly used in the story. There is a minimal dialogue used. So which is the reader gets to know the characters better through what they say. Do we understand? And the story is retrogressive because of it brings what? The flashbacks. So we also have to know the diction or the figurative language that is used. Do we understand? We also have to know what the diction or the figurative languages that are used in the story. Number 1, we have what? Similar. They used similar in the story. Metaphor is there. Personification is also there. Do we understand, good people? Then there is also the tone. The tone, we can see that people are depressed. Evelyn is depressed. Number 2, harsh. Because the boss of Evelyn, who is who? That she was using to guide Evelyn, she was being harsh. Then we have what? We have the mood. The mood, the story is sad, the story is emotional, the story has problems, the story has rumors, and guilty at the end. So now, who is Evelyn's boyfriend? Who is Evelyn's boyfriend? Frank is Evelyn's boyfriend. That's correct. That's correct. Number 2, who is Evelyn's brother? Who is Evelyn's brother? Everything that I'm asking you guys, I was telling you about now. It's Harry. That's correct. Evelyn's employer. Who is Evelyn's employer? Who is Evelyn's employer who was harsh to her while she was working? It's Miss Gavin. Miss Gavin. It's gonna be who? Miss Gavin. We now move to the bag of sweets. We are now moving to the bag of sweets. We are now moving to the bag of sweets. Are we ready? Can we move to the bag of sweets? Okay, thank you. In the bag of sweets, we must know that there is a young Muslim woman. There is a young Muslim woman who is called Kaltama. A young Muslim woman called Kaltama assists in the family shop on Fridays. When her brothers attend prayer at the mosque, one day she is surprised to see what estranged a sister that disappeared for a long time, which is who? Khadija, entering the shop. Do we understand? Khadija is entering the shop and she is surprised. Khadija left the family 3 years before to marry a Christian man. Khadija left the family 3 years back to do what? To marry a Christian man. And she has been calling at the family home daily after the passing away of their parents and hoping for what? The reconciliation. The family refuses entry to her family or to their family house and ignores her continuously. She then decides to change track and meet the eldest sister at the shop on Fridays. Who is who? Kaltama. Kaltama continues to ignore the advance of her sister, even though she knows that as the eldest sister, she had an ability to change the mind of her family members. On a whim, she gives her sister a bag of sweets, but continues to ignore her until finally Khadija does not come back on Fridays to the shop. I hope we are understanding. Let us hear the title of the story. So Muslims regard giving gifts as one of a good manners that maintains and strengthens the relations. Do we understand? Between the giver and the receiver. So this explains why Khadija hopes for reconciliation and continues to come to the shop after her sister gave her a bag of sweets. It furthermore explains why the brothers immediately looked for the explanation why Kaltama gives her sister a bag of sweets. Do we understand? Then we have the theme of the story. The theme of the story, we have intolerance. The reason why we say there is intolerance in the story is because of what? Lack of tolerance is noticed throughout the story or the short story. There is also what? Forgiveness in the story. The family blames Khadija for the death of their parents, despite being devoted Muslims. They cannot find it in their heart to forgive her. On the other hand, it appears as if Khadija had forgiven her family for shunning her all years. Do we understand? And she wished to let go of the past and reunite with her family. But the family tries to forgive her. I hope that makes sense. And then there is also what? Pretense in the story. That's a theme. I'm telling you the theme. Forgiveness, pretense, because Kaltama is good at keeping up pretense. She keeps herself softening towards her sister when she realizes that Khadija resembles her mother the most. But she pretends that she feels nothing for her. Then she uses excuses for her behavior to hide her true feelings. For an example, she says she gave Khadija a bag of sweets to get rid of her the same way would a child be. Do we understand, good people? She pretended as if like she doesn't care for Khadija. That is why the brothers, when they asked that, why did you give Khadija the bag of sweet? And then the sister said, no, I gave her the bag of sweet because I just wanted to get rid of her. I hope that makes sense. Then the other thing that we have the expectations versus the reality. Remember, Khadija has an expectation that by showing up regular and being herself, her family will forgive and welcome her back into the inner cycle. Do we understand? In reality, it is Kaltama's stubborn refusal to accept her back that prevents what? The reconciliation. In the end, Kaltama expects Khadija to come to the shop, but is rather disappointed when she does not show up. That means now, Kaltama now want Khadija to come to the shop, or to find that Khadija is no longer coming to the shop. So now we have to know the setting of the story. The setting of the story is set in a family shop or Muslim family and in their house 3 years after Khadija's married to what? A Christian man. And there is no clear indication of the location of the shop. That's the setting of the story. So we have to know the structure and the plot development, which is the exposition. The exposition is that the story opens with tense between what? Two sisters, Kaltama and Khadija. Khadija arrived at the shop after being what? Away for 3 years. Kaltama ignores her, even though she carries on talking. Kaltama manages the family shop on Fridays when the brothers attend prayer at Moscow. And this is the only time Khadija comes to the shop. That's the introduction. Then let us go to the rising action. When we talk about the rising action, they are part of events that influence Kaltama's attitude. Khadija left her Muslim family and married a Christian man with whom she had a baby with. After the death of her parents, Khadija pays daily visit to her family home with the hope of what reconciliation. But she is always turned away at the door. She then starts visiting the store when she knows she will find her sister Kaltama alone, because she hopes that since they used to be very close, Kaltama will forgive and welcome her back in the family. So we also have to know the climax of this story. The climax of this story is that Kaltama gives Khadija a bag of cheap sweets. Khadija may take it as a sign of what? Of reconciliation. But Kaltama's intentions are not reconciliations or reconciliatory, as she carries to on ignoring her sister. Do we understand? And it does make her brothers think that she could be ready to forgive Khadija, which would allow her return to the family. Kaltama realizes that her sister has the closest resemblance to her mother. At this moment, she does not want Khadija to leave because she realizes that Khadija is still related to them by blood. And however, she allows who? She allows her intolerance and inability to forgive to control her, as she did what? She ignores what? Khadija. I hope that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. And then there is also what? The resolution. Khadija finally stops coming to the shop. And then Kaltama waits for her sister, even past the shop closing time, which shows that she hopes for Khadija to do what? To visit again. It seems that Kaltama regrets her harsh treatment of her sister. I hope that makes sense, good people. Can I now move forward to the characterization that we have in the story? Can I move forward to the characterization that we have in the story? Okay. So the characterization that we have in the story is that the narrator, which is who? Kaltama. She is a leader. She is cold-hearted and she is stubborn. Kaltama, she is a leader, she is cold-hearted and she is stubborn. Then let us hear about who? Khadija. What can we say about Khadija? Khadija is what? Principled, unwavering. She is kind, forthcoming, and she is also loving. Khadija. Then let us hear about Abdul. Abdul is indecisive because he follows the example set by who? Kaltama, and does not speak to who? To Khadija. So the style of the story is that a formal style was used throughout what? The story, but they are constructions used in dialogues. Constructions are used appropriately in the dialogue to indicate spoken language. Do we understand? And the style is appropriate for a person who deemed herself to be what? Superior to her sister. It also mirrors the age of the woman. That's the style of the story. And then we now go to what? To diction, or the figurative language. Remember I said the figure of speech that I used. We have similar, we have metaphor, we have personification in the story. We also have irony. Then let us now talk about the tone and the mood of the story. The tone is gloom. because it's used when Kaltama expresses her negative thoughts. And it's also accusatory because Kaltama accuses Khadija of being disrespectful. And there is also what hopeful or optimism, to be understood. Because Khadija hopes that her sister will forgive her and allow her back home into the family. Then the mood. There is angry, upset in the story. So usual, if they can show this story, you're gonna be given the names of these people. Then you will have to do what? To match, because they will say the narrator whose name is. What is the name of the narrator? What's the name of the narrator? What's the name of the narrator? No one is giving the name of a narrator. That's highly impossible. Okay, Kaltam, that's the name of the narrator. Kaltama is the name of the narrator. I hope that makes sense. Kaltama, the name of the narrator. I hope we are all understanding. I hope we are understanding, all of us good people. So those ones who are doing metric first time, do you do the class act? Those who are doing the metric for the first time, remember these short stories you are given in the beginning of the year. Do you do class act? Okay. It's fine. We're gonna do class act, but for now we're gonna start with the wind and the boy. We're gonna start with the wind and the boy. When we come to the wind and the boy, the story is about a grandmother, which her name is Sijosanye. The wind and the boy, the story is about the grandmother. Her name is what? Sijosanye, who is raising her daughter's son in where? In a rural village, because her daughter had to continue working and could not take the child with her. And they live in what? Gasifete, Mulemo. They live at Gasifete, Molimo. What? And see, Josiah takes freedmen everywhere with her. Do we understand? There is a close bond between the grandmother and the grandson. See, Josiah is very proud of her grandson. He is an apple of an eye. The boy lives a carefree life and gets killed in an accident. The boy got killed in an accident. His death affected the grandmother so much that she also dies and gets buried 2 weeks after the boy's funeral. I hope we are understanding. So the title of the story is that the boy in the title refers to who? Friedman, the main character, which the main character is who? It's Friedman. He is a boy who has what? Magical wind blowing for him. He is loved by other parents who see him being different from other children. The winds of change are the result of a new attitude and lifestyle of the community at large. The wind is the cause of the boy's death. Figuratively, the boy lives in a carefree world with no rules or consequences. He becomes a victim of the winds of political changes in his community. So the theme of this story, we have what? Gender roles. In the story, there is no sense of equality between the sexes. The boys do as they please, and no one gives them guidance on how to behave as they grow up. Do we understand? They go wherever they want, leaving home early in the morning, only to come back when the sun set. Girls stay home and perform household duties that include what? Fetching water. It is assumed that they do not need any education, and that put a spotlight on gender roles. See, Josiah becomes what? Becomes the navy of Adam. Do we understand, good people? So there is also loyalty in the story. The loyalty in the story is that Friedman is loyal to his grandmother and he listens to her stories and teachings and immortalate what the heroes from what the stories that he has listened to. He goes hunting so that he and his grandmother can have meat. He becomes more loyal to his grandmother and wants to help her in any way. See, Josiah is loyal to who? Friedman. And she is there for him throughout his life. She takes him everywhere she goes. She is very proud of her grandson. Do we understand, good people? Then we have what? We have the change in the story. The change is that towards the end of the story, there is evidence of change. Although the village is still rural, agricultural, they are modern and buying cars, or they are what? They is an emergence of new class of people who are modern and buying cars. The driver of the truck that kills Freddy does not have driver's license. So you must know that Freddy was being hit by a car, by a truck. He rushes to get a truck so that he could fit into the privileged class. Do we understand what is happening in the story? So the setting of the story takes place in a rural village in Gasifeto Mullo, Luat. It is not clear exactly the story takes place, but it is at the dawn of independence in Botswana in 1960s. So that's the setting of the story. That's what the setting of the story. So remember, we have got the exposition whereby the narrator introduces the reader to the phrase of life. In the first phase, he comes home from the hospital as a small bundle, and his grandmother takes care of him. The next phase is characterized by him tolding. Do we understand, people? So the other thing that we should know is the rising action. Because when Fredman was listening to his grandmother's stories, Fredman get hooked on the heroic story of what? Robson, the greater hunter. He decided that one is going to be what? Just like him. Then the climax, life with its responsibilities increases. Freddy, as he start his teenage years, he asked for what? For a bicycle, so that he can do more for his grandmother. His mother buys the bicycle and Freddy start running more errands for his grandmother. And he is hit by a truck while riding what? The errands for his grandmother on his bicycle. Do we understand? So the resolution of the story is that Sijone is sent to hospital for shock. She dies in the hospital and villagers bury her. So we must know what kind of a person Freddyman is. He is lovable because he's different. He's loyal. He's imaginative. Then what about Sijosane? Sijosane is the grandmother. She is loving, confident, and independent. Then we also have to know about Dr. Freddy. He is friendly. He is the role model. Sijosane decided to name her grandson after him because of his friendly behavior towards who? Towards Sijosane when she visited the hospital. So the style is that the reader is easily to get all the details painted to what is happening to the characters, because the narrator is not part of the story but has a bird's eye view of the event as they unfold. Then we also have to know the diction or the figurative languages that it's been used in the story, or what the figure of speech. We have similar, we have metaphor, we have personification, we have iron. Then the tone and the mood is that in the tone there is what? Cheerful, appreciative, because Friedman lives a life and brings happiness to his grandmother. And there is what? Sympathetic or disappointed in the story, because Freddy and Sijosanse died, leave the villagers miserable. Then there is also what? There is also the mood. The mood, there is happiness, there are obstacles. Remember, the obstacles are what? Are the problems. There is sadness, there is angry. The story is also emotional. So, what is the name of the village that they lived in? What's the name of the village? Gasifeto, ne? Mulimo village. That's correct. You guys, you are going to pass. Definitely you are going to pass. The information that I'm giving you is the information that they will ask you. Definitely you are going to pass. Definitely, good people, you are going to pass. Because you've been giving me the answers on the questions that I've been asking you. So let us now go to the class act. On the class act is that the narrator is a 12-year-old girl who has just started high school. Do we understand, good people? She is subjected to testing because of her what appearance. The pleasure she feels makes her hate what school, or the pressure that she feels, it makes her hate the school. She is too young to defend herself. Do we understand, good people? She is too young to defend herself. She is under circumstances, tries to adapt in order to survive and get by. Mr. Souls, her English teacher, cannot control his own class. That gives what Renato, who has failed what standard 6 3 times, an opportunity to bull who new learners. She does not report the bullying to her mother and her auntie, but she fights the demons all by herself. Do we understand? The other contribute to her suffering by ignoring her request to have her tunic shortened. Do we understand? The narrator finally tells her sister about what the tunes or bullying. The tunic is shortened, but she is then tested for the thick hem and white coating thread. She is further ridiculed because of her color of her underwear, as well as her black knees. She renewed bullying makes her feel she is better off with a long dress. So I hope we are understanding here that we are talking about a girl who's being bullied, and the teacher, Mr. Souls, her English teacher, is failing to control the class, and that allows the bullying to continue in the class. Do we understand, good people? So the title of the story, the phrase class act, it simply refers to what? An excellent performance, or someone whose performance is extraordinary or excellent. Do we understand? The phrase is also refers to someone who is general, well-mannered. Looking at the narrator's life and experience, she does not lose her temper or even talk back when ridiculed, but instead she acts what? Calmly and throughout the story. Do we understand? The title is in a way linked to the movie Sister Act because of what? The long tunic the narrators wears at school, or tunic. You can call it tunic, you can call it tonic, it's up to you. The narrator is ridiculed and called Sister Mary Clearance, one of the nuns in the movie. So she's been bullied because of her cheek was long. Do we understand, good people? So the theme of the story, there is bullying. That's number one. There is bullying, guys. And there is also appearance. There is also conflict in the story. There is also helplessness. That means the narrator does not get help. And then we also have the story, the setting of the story. The setting of the story is that the story is set in a home called Sikik, which is now part of Eastern Cape. It takes place in the 1990s. The story shifts between school and what the narrator's home. That means the story is between the narrator's home and the school. Then the structure and the plot development. The narrator is introduced as a 12-year who has just started high school. She has two main challenges at school. She hates Africans and she is teased by other learners for her looks. The narrator is at home with her mother and her auntie, who are getting her uniform ready for her new school. And then the rising action is that Mr. Souls, who is one of the teachers, cannot control his class and learners to do as they like in his presence. Renato forces the new learners in the institution to stand in front of the class so he can inspect their uniform. The narrator's uniform is long, goes below her knees. Renato then calls her Sister Mary. Remember, it's the one that they were busy tuning her. I hope it makes sense. I hope it makes sense, good people. I'm so tired. I'm really tired. I'm here just to help you. I'm gonna record these videos clearly, but I know that you will be done. But those ones who will be upgrading next year or next year, you will get videos here. So the climax of the story is that it reached when the narrator tells her sister, Ayanda, about the choosing Ayanda offense to adjust the blue tunic and decide to use the only available white coating. When the narrator has the tunic, she also realizes that it is shorter than she had requested, and it will make other learners see her thighs and knock her knees. She is then teased by the other learners because of her white hand and her black knees. Some even commented about her yellow panties. Do we understand? So the resolution in the story is that she resolves that she is better off as Sister Mary Clearance. Do we understand? If she wears a long tunic, people will not see her panty, her knock knees, and her black knees. Do we understand? So the narrator is misfit, reserved, and courageous. Ayanda is friendly, understanding, and caring. And then Mr. Souls, it's inexperienced because he cannot control his class. Antigone is untrustworthy. Then the narrator's mother is uncaring. Then Kanyisa is what? It's a poptious girl, which look down upon what? The narrator. Then Reneto is the bull. So the style of the story is an informal register which is appropriate to the narrator's age. This is the evident in the use of what? Of the construction, like didn't, your, can't. Do we understand? So in other words, I'm simply saying that the use of dialogue is what? In indicative. It's indicative of the flowing conversation among the characters. Several closer phrases are used as an example of code switching. Then the figurative language that is used, there is irony, there is similar, there is illusion. Then the tone and the mood that we have, the tone we have what? Depressed and gloom. And then the mood we have what? Sad and what? And emotional. I hope that makes sense, good people. How many short stories did we do so far? But I believe that we are almost done. We did only 6. That means we are left with only 2, ne? Yes, we did 6. We are left with only 2. We did 6. We are left with only 2, good people. We are left with only 2, and you are good to go and pass your examination after these 2. Go and get 35 in My Children, My Africa. Go and get 35 on the short stories. So on the story that we'll be dealing with, we will be dealing with the girl who can. The girl who can. Do you do village people? I think this year you are doing village people, because I've been seeing people saying that we must do village people. You are not doing village people this year. Yeah, so do you see that how lot of people are failing because they want me to do things that you are not going to find in your final examination? That's how lot of candidates they fail their matric. It's because of they read things that are not going to show up. Do we understand? Because remember, these short stories they change each and every year. Do you understand, good people? The book has so many short stories. The book has so many short stories, and if you don't know them, you're gonna face a problem. Because this is the book that we are dealing with. This is the book that we are dealing with, which is called Changes. So this book, it has 23 short stories. So just imagine if you will do everything. Do we understand, good people? So we are not doing everything in this book. So the girl who can. So when we talk about the girl who can, we are simply talking about what little Adjoa. We're talking about what little Adjoa is and what is an ambitious. Changes, an anthology of short stories. That's the name of the book. Changes, an anthology of short stories. Little Adjoa is an ambitious girl, like any other girl her age. Like any girl her age. Do we understand? Who dreams and aspirations of her own. She believes that anything is possible. Mimi, her mother, wants the best of her child. She wants to she wants to succeed and earn a respectful position in her society. And then there's who? Nala, Adoja's grandmother. Do we understand? Adoja's grandmother has lived all her life according to the society and perspective. Nana believes that Adjo can never be a woman as she has very thin legs. Do we understand? That she will bear her from carrying a baby. Nana only changes her view of what about Adoja's legs when she becomes an athletic and is successful. Do we understand, good people? Is successful because of her legs. Eventually, the grandmother takes pride in what Adjo achievements. Do we understand, good people? So the title of the story is that the little about a young girl named Adjo. Her capabilities are overlooked because of her thin, long legs and her what? Inability to express her feelings. She proved everyone wrong when she ridiculed thin legs allows her to accomplish an achievement. So the theme of the story there is what? Innocence or fear or what? Insecurity. Because Ado had been laughed at the experiencing of her feelings or asking awkward questions throughout her childhood. Do we understand? And there is also what? Stereotype or gender in this story, because Nana makes fun of her granddaughter's thin and long legs, and she believes that a girl's uh, legs should have flesh in preparation for the child bearing what stage. Do we understand? And the theme of the story, we also have what? Conflict that is happening in the story. The conflict is that Nana and Maima, mother and daughter, argue about what? Mom's choice of a husband. Nana blames what? Mom's choice of a husband for what? Appearance of Adoja. The discussion about who? Adoja, skinny legs, causes what? Conflict between what? The two women, which is Manmia, does not see anything wrong with Adoja's legs, while Nana thinks they are they are of no use. Do we understand? And then there is also success in the theme of the story. Do we understand, good people? There is also success in the theme of the story. The success in the theme of the story is that Doja becomes a successful athletic when her teacher realizes that she can run faster. She finally realizes that her thin, long legs are useful for a different purpose. She is what? Chosen to represent the school at the district games. Then she did what? Then she did what? She goes on to win the cup for all best of all rounder in their category. Do we understand, good people? You see, there are certain people who are failing to control their anger, even through the comment section. Just imagine if you can meet those people in person. They can strangle my neck and kill me. There are certain people like they are failing to control the anger. Just imagine they are failing to control the anger in the social media. What kind of people is that one? Like they are failing to control their hatred that they have. Just imagine if they can meet a person, me in person, they can strangle my neck. But we are not going to entertain such people. Let us move forward. Then there is what? There is pride and what? Appreciation in the story. Do we understand? Pride and appreciation in the story. Nana becomes Adoja's #1 fan when she becomes famous and successful in athletics. And remember, Anna was discriminating what? Adoja. Do we understand? She prepares her school uniform for her and accompanies her to school and to athletic events. Do we understand, good people? She takes pride in carrying her what? Granddaughter's trophy. I hope that makes sense. I hope that makes sense, good people. Then we also have to know how the story told, which is the setting of the story. In the setting of the story takes place in a village called what? Hasodzi in Ghana, Africa. Most events take place between the narrator's home and school. It is not clear when the story takes place, but it's during the athletic session at school. The main character walks 5 kilometers to reach the school in the nearby small town. The walks are not a problem for her, as she used to run to a long walks in the village. Do we understand, good people? Then we now move forward. There is a structure and the plot development. The exposition is that the main character, Adoja, is unable to voice her voice her feelings. Whenever she tries to say something to her grandmother, she becomes a laughing stock. Do we understand? She then resort to keep what quiet. And then the rising action is that there are argument between Maima and Nana about Doja, because the arguments are mainly about Doja's legs being long and thin, Doja's father not being a good choice for a husband, and the importance of education or lack of therefore. I hope we are now understanding what is happening. Then the climax of the story is that the Adoja participate in athletics with her classmate and wins each time. Her talent is recognized by her teachers who select her to represent the schools. Do we understand, good people? Join team at the district games. Then there's also what the resolution in the story. The resolution is that Nana changes her perspective when Doja's skin. Do we understand? When Doja's skin legs make her successful runner, she becomes what so proud that she openly support her by walking with her to school and even carrying her trophy. Do we understand? So we also have to know the characterization that we have in the story. Number one, Adoja is what it's withdrawing, and she is fearful, and she is an athletic, and she is a talented runner. Do we understand? And then Nana is a traditional. She is traditional. She is insensitive. She is confrontable. She is a round character, and she is also a hypocrite. Do we understand? These are the short stories that I'm doing here. And then there is what? My which is what? Kaya. Believes in education, illiterate, she is loving, she is protective, she is supportive, she is calm and reserved. Then we have what? Mr. Misha or Menshe. We have Mr. Menshe. Mr. Menshe is kind. He's a neighbor to what? Doja's family. Do we understand, good people? Then the style of the story is that the story is told in a what? A conversation like narrator. The author uses different quotations from characters to allow what? The reader to understand each character's tone and attitude and insight. Then the figurative languages or the diction that I used in the story is that there is what? Idomic expression, there is what? Similar, there is metaphor, there is alliteration, there is iron. Then we have to move to tone and the mood of the story. When we go to the tone, there is what? Apprehensive, there is what? Harsh, cruel, and mocking, and cheerful. That's the tone. Then the mood, there is what? There is rumors and repentance at the end. We are almost done, guys. We are almost done. We are doing the last one. Now we are moving to what? A triumph in the face of what? Advertise or adversity. Do we understand, good people? This is the last story that we are doing there. So in this story, the story is about a young lady, Tulisile, the narrator and the main character. She appears at her mother's gravesite, and a flashback of event unfolds. Do we understand? Then she tells a sad story about her mother's marriage to her father, and Tembekile, mother-in-law, abuses her. Then she tells a sad story about her mother's marriage to her father, and Tembekile, mother-in-law, abuses her. Then she tells a sad story about her mother's marriage to her father, and Tembekile, mother-in-law, abuses her. Then she tells a sad story about her mother's marriage to her father, and Tembekile, mother-in-law, abuses her. and her marital suffering lead her to move to a squatter camp with her husband and her children after the father loses his job. He blames abusive to the family. Do we understand? Then the narrator worked hard to change the situation at home. She eventually gets employed as a TV presenter and can afford to buy a house. Do we understand, good people? Her father dies and only then does her mother moves with her into a proper house. Sadly, her mother is too weak to survive and she dies. Guys, here I'm doing something that is going to show up. We are not doing what? Transforming moments. Do we understand? We are doing certain things that are chosen for you to write this year. So I hope we are understanding. Then the theme that we have intolerance, because Tulisiwe's grandmother does not approve of her son, which is who? Jabulani marrying a girl from Johannesburg, Madlami. Wants Jabulani to marry someone who grew up in KZN, currently known as what? KwaZulu-Natal. Mother-in-law, there is what? Conflict. Madlamin continues to torture Tembekile even after she gets married to the narrator's father. She makes her wake up early than everyone. She is not allowed to wear trousers and short skirts. Understand, good people? And short skirts. And she must also cover her hand with oil at all time. She is ill-treated until she decides to move out. Then there is what? There is poverty in the story. Do we understand? The life at Pambili squatter camp is characterized by the thin shanties, which is a communal toilet. Do we understand? Overpopulation and poverty. The narrator's household also suffers when the father loses his job and cannot provide food and other need. Do we understand? They can stay longer than planned due to what? Lack of demand. Then there is also what? The unemployment in the story, because Tulisiwe's father loses his job and he does not find any other work. Most people in Pambili squatter camp are not employed. Do we understand? And then gender-based violence is also there because the father finds an escape in liquor. When he drank, he beat Woods Tulisiwe's mother for no apparent reason. Do we understand? Then there is also child abuse in the story. When Bongani and Zanele are born, their father beats them up for no reason. Tuli works hard for her father, steals her money, and uses it to buy alcohol. He even goes to her employer and takes part of her salary without her consent. And then there is also what? Child labor in the story, because Tuli, who is literally a child, is forced to find employment in other support of her family. To be understand, she sells sweet and eventually get employed by who? By Mr. Ratabe, Mr. Ratabe, who owns a what? A fish and chips shop. Do we understand? 15, she works as a cleaner after school and on weekends. And there's also loyalty in the story. Do we understand? And there's also fear in the story. There's also ambition and opportunity in the story. Setting of the story is that the story takes place in Johannesburg, South Africa. It develops what? Pambili squatter camps where the family spends most of their time. It is unclear when the story takes place. However, the use of Nathali Place, the story is the democratic era in South Africa. Then the exposition, as I said, that there is what? the structure and the plot development. Thulisile, the narrator, is standing by her mother's grave when she thinks of how much her mother's death affected her emotionally. She compares the pain she felt when her mother died to when her father died. Do we understand, good people? The rising action is when now the narrator takes the reader through what the beginning of her mother's suffering in the hands of what Madlamini, and Madlamini does not approve that she marries Jabulani because of she is from Johannesburg, and the suffering escalate further when the narrators present move to what Pambilini squatter camp. The narrator's father loses his job and drowns his sorrows in liquor and becomes abusive to his wife and children. Do we understand? Then the climax, it's whereby we are talking about what the narrator's ambition of becoming a better person is fulfilled when she gets employed as a TV presenter for a children's program. Her work let her afford to buy a proper house and move her family from the shed that they were living in, and her mother and father stayed behind. Then the resolution of the entire short story is that after her father's death, the narrator managed to move in with her mother in the proper house. Unfortunately, the mother's health condition has what deteriorated, and she eventually died. So we have to know the characters that we have. Tulisiwe is what responsible. She is brave. She is self-driven. She is emotional. Then Tembegile, she is obedient. She is caring. She is suffers abuse, and she is loyal. She is submissive. She is dependent. Then Madlamini is judgmental. She is bossy. She is abusive. Then Jabulani is trustworthy. He is also abusive. And then Ntombi, she is a survivor. And then Bongani, he is a survivor. He is loyal. And then Zanele, she is a survivor because she survives what the beating from her father. Do we understand? And she is also loyal. And then Tabi saying she is loving, supportive. Mr. Nkwane, he is observative and a tough lover. And Mercy Dike, kind, humble, and caring. And then Mr. Ratibe, she is ignorant and naive. Do we understand? So I guess we are done for today, good people. I just believe that we are done for today. I did this I did this live out of love. I was not gonna do it if I didn't have love for you. Because of I just wanted to give you those little things that you need. It's better than not doing anything at all. So that is why I just decided that no, let me just do the live, even though I won't be explaining that deeply, you understand? But those ones who will be writing their metric next year, these videos, they will be there posted. It won't be all about life anymore. I hope we are all together, good people. I wish you all the best, and I believe that a lot of you next year, January, after receiving the result, you will be coming to the channel running that we thank you, say, I got bachelor, I got a distinction. Do you understand? I got level 6, I got level 5. Do you understand, good people? So I believe that next year you'll be here, guys, coming and saying that no, I did well with my exams. Thank you very much for the help that you gave, and so forth and so on. I believe in you guys. I believe that you can make it. There is nothing that is impossible as long as you have a dedication in yourself, you have self love, you believe in yourself. You understand? The moment you believe in yourself, the moment you trust yourself, the moment you apply what you learned in the at school during the year and what you learned through my YouTube. You understand? So please, if you have been subscribed, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share so that you can get more content relating to such things. Do we understand, good people? Because I will be helping. Even next year, I'm gonna be here wire. Even though you can go to the university level, I will make sure that I do become available for you. You will tell me how was the tomorrow when you come back. All the best. I wish you all the best, good people.